like just dancing with the uncomfortable zone. Like growth does not happen in the comfort zone. We have to press into the uncomfortable zone to get to the other side. And that's where that personal development and growth happens. And for me, my body is like, ooh, this is so uncomfortable. Welcome to the Wholesome Healing Collective.
Join us on our podcast for a journey into the hearts of healers from all walks of life, diving deep as we explore meaningful conversations that have the power to inspire, empower, and share life-changing wisdom.
Through this community, we hope to create a welcoming environment where our listeners leave feeling nurtured and uplifted. We are so delighted you are here. My name is Alyssa.
And I'm Renee. Grab a drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Renee and Alyssa here with you again for another episode of the Wholesome Healing Collective podcast. We are excited to chat with you today and have a little bit of a year-end wrap-up with you, talking about our theme, the lessons, our top learnings from the year that we felt would be valuable to share. And I think it's going to be a great combo.
Yeah, I love that. The lessons, so many lessons. Like I feel like this year did not go as planned, but that is totally okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a wild year, and I feel like it's been the fastest and longest year ever. Like so
Yeah.
full of so many lessons and so many like twists and turns that wasn't expected. And here we are, it's the end of the year, and how did time go by so fast?
Time has been so weird recently, and I'm just curious to see what next year looks like. If it feels fast too,
Yeah.
or if we get to slow down and find the joy in every moment.
Oh, yeah. Finding the
Mhm.
joy. Mhm.
Yeah. So your theme for 2023, tell us about your theme.
So my theme was fairly broad, embrace. Um, and really what it kind of evolved into over the course of the year was embracing, really just embracing myself and belonging to myself, embracing and loving myself so that I could step out to be seen, to be heard, to trust in myself to move forward, to trust in myself to add value to the world, to be of service to people. I think that I really needed to embrace myself further before I could fully step into that service role that I want to step into. And I think in my purpose of serving, part of my mission is becoming a place of belonging for people. And I can't do that if I don't belong to myself.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Embracing yourself and belonging to yourself so that you can be of service in a deeper way. I think more people should focus on belonging to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I hear so often that people are lonely, whether they just feel like they don't have any friends or they're lonely in their marriage. And I think if they turned it around and just tried to focus on themselves and belong to themselves and love themselves, that everything else outside would start to reflect that relationship that they're building with themselves.
Yeah.
And it's just such a big task, but it can be taken in pieces. And I'm sure maybe you'll be sharing on that as that was your theme this last year. So, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. I'll piggyback one thing that came through while you were saying that is belonging to myself has also been a process of um belonging to my unseen team. and developing that relationship with my creator and my spirit tribe of beings on the other side. And in my prayers, I thank them every day just for being with me and for giving me that place to belong. So even though it is very much about me and my inner work, it's also been that like spirit family belonging as well. That is still me, obviously, but it is a little bit of the internal and external duality, even though it's just me from the unseen world, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I love that. I told you recently, I don't think I shared it on the podcast, how when you're working like with your spirit teams and your spiritual mentors, you just create this relationship and it's like they're uplifting you and guiding you and showing you the way. And it's just such a beautiful relationship. And I love that you touched on that. Yeah.
Mm,
Mm.
amazing. And what about your theme? Let's touch on that.
Yeah. So it was being seen. And for me, that just kind of meant coming out of the shadows and putting myself out there. Created a podcast, did started a business at the end of the last year and was just trying to get out there with my business. Um, just trying to be seen. And that unfolded in many different ways. So I'm excited to talk about the learnings and the lessons.
Yeah. Is there one that sticks out to you as you kind of restate that theme of being
Yeah.
seen? What was the big nugget
Mm.
that popped into your mind for lessons?
Um, really like just dancing with the uncomfortable zone. Like growth does not happen in the comfort zone. We have to press into the uncomfortable zone to get to the other side. And that's where that personal development and growth happens. And for me, my body is like, "Ooh, this is so uncomfortable. Like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm shaking, even though I'm really not." And it's like these feelings that don't feel very good, but I have to just tell my body, like, it's okay. It is safe for me to talk about myself, for me to present about my business. It is safe for me to share breath work with 40 women and show them what's happening in the body and give them this experience that is life changing, even though it's uncomfortable. And then when I get done, I'm like, wow, I want to do that again and see if I can be a little less nervous. So it's
Yeah.
just like this funny process.
Yeah. How cool though that getting out of the comfort zone, getting through it, it's like, okay, I could do that again. I could do that
Yeah.
again. And then it makes you, it almost becomes like this uncomfortable game.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
let's take the edge off. Let's take the next little layer of cringe off.
yeah. And the best part is, or I don't know if it's the best part, but at the end, people were coming up to me and said I did such a great job. And I was like, really? You couldn't tell how nervous I was? And she was like, no. And I was like, oh, wow. It's so crazy because the feelings are so overwhelming inside my body that I'm like, there's no way these people don't see it. It's it's pretty funny. I guess if you pay close enough attention, you probably could, but most people don't. And so
Yeah.
just do it.
Well, and we
Um,
have to remember that the people we're presenting to aren't as attuned to your nervous system as the people that you um interact with on a deeper daily basis. Like I might have been able to tell that you were nervous, but someone else who doesn't know you and interact with you, they don't see those little things or
yeah,
hear
that's
like the little influx in your voice or whatever. I know my voice is always the giveaway for my nervousness.
that's such a perfect reflection. Yeah. Um, and kind of going along with that, doing hard things in your everyday life, like cold plunging or holding your breath, can help create that, widen that tolerance, the window of tolerance,
Mm.
and allow you to do those uncomfortable things more often and with ease.
Yeah, I think that that is going to be a big theme for me in 2024 is getting out of my comfort zone, and widening that window of tolerance for those things. So nervous
Mm,
and excited.
yeah.
Gonna be good.
Love to hear about one of your lessons. What do you have there?
Yeah, so the one I'll share the one that I feel like is most alive for me right now. And it's one that I have been learning throughout this whole year. And I'm continuing to get more opportunities to learn it deeper. And it's just following joy
Mm,
and being led by joy. And it sounds simple and easy, or maybe it doesn't sound easy and it sounds like, oh yeah, live by joy, like that must be nice. Um, but it's in those moments where I have surrendered to joy and I have made that a focus where I've felt the most guided, the most aligned, the most motivated. And it's when I get sucked into either whatever sad feeling is coming up, and rather than observing it and allowing it to move, uh, I get sucked into seeing the world through it, and then need to change my perspective, or um I get caught up in the, well, when I do this, then I will find joy, or I should do this to get me there, and then I'll have joy. And I fall into that trap, and it's not an unknown trap. And I think we all have experienced that experience of getting to the thing that we think will give us joy and it doesn't. And so I'm just relearning over and over that really it's what brings us joy right here in this moment. And it might be different than what brought you joy yesterday. It might be different than what brings you joy a year from now. But what brings you joy right now is what is going to lead you to that next step and that next place that you want to be. So
yes.
that's my big one, that I'm in it right now. And I'm leaning back into joy, and I'm going to let that lead me in 2024.
I love that. I want some joy in 2024. I want to find joy in the moments, in the small moments, and rest there.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so it is.
Yeah. I love that you named the should, like drop the shoulds and just be present with joy in this moment. People get so
Yes.
stuck in the I should do this or I should do that. And what
Or
if
I
I
should
do?
be happy because I have all these things. And you kind of, I've done this a lot with myself where it's like you almost gaslight the fact that you're not healthy or you're not happy. You're like, oh, well, but look at these things. You should be happy because you have a roof over your head and a full belly. And while that might be true, that mindset and that approach to it is not going to make you happy.
Right. Yes. Mm. It's not a thing or a place or a time. It's other than right now.
Yeah.
Mm. I love that.
What else has been a big learning on your journey of being seen?
Yeah, just starting. And that really goes in line with this podcast. So, just starting the podcast, for the listeners that have been with us since the beginning, or anybody that's gone back and listened to episode 1, 2, and 3, we were nervous and we had no idea what we were doing. And the editing and the graphics were all I just was winging it. And I still am, but like the experience over time has just allowed it to morph into be what we have today. And I'm not allowing my perfectionism to hold me back and keep me from starting. I just started.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like you need some snaps for that.
Yeah.
Another one of your learnings I'll be taking into 2024. That
Yeah.
is so powerful because it's incredible how much and how easy it is to sabotage ourselves from doing the things that we want to do because of our ego and our perfectionism getting in the way and or redirecting our focus on the things that we don't like. I was listening to something and it's talking about, getting ready to launch something and how people will spend hours or days on like their PowerPoint presentation and making sure it has the right colors and the right images and the right words. And the person that was talking about this point was like, it doesn't matter. No one's going to remember what color your slides were. No one. They're not. They're going to remember how you make them feel. They're going to remember the energy that you brought to it, but they're not going to remember those little details. So don't stop yourself because you're spending all this time perfecting these details, because really it's just your fear giving you an excuse to not start. You can't start because you got to fix this. You can't start because you got to practice your script again, or you can't start because you have to make a script. It's like, no, you don't.
Mhm.
You just need to bring it and be there and show up. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm preaching this to myself.
I
And
love
hopefully
that.
it's valuable to others too.
Yeah, I think that's very valuable. Yeah, just start.
Just start.
Yeah.
Simple and powerful wisdom.
Mm. What is another lesson from learning to embrace?
Ah, I am incorporating ceremony has been a big one for me. Um, and I went through a ceremonial facilitation course this year, which was really beautiful. And I'm looking forward to um, incorporating that into my offerings next year. But this year was really about bringing the ceremony just in my own daily life. And I haven't really shared it with others yet in a big way. And I think I'm starting to learn that this is just like how I do things. Like I have to incubate things within myself for a while before sharing them with others. I think it's really beautiful how some people are able to learn and share as they go. They're bringing people along in their journey and they're sharing before they have it figured out. And this is probably my perfectionism coming out as I'm saying this, but I have this sense of like needing to grasp things deeply before I emerge and share with people. So there's probably a balance I need to strike with that. But this year felt like really embracing that ceremonial aspect of life that really isn't embraced in Western culture, but it is so much a part of every culture in history. When you go back far enough, we all have traditions and ceremonies, and it really just invites us to pause. I think that's really at the root of every ceremony. It invites us to pause and be present with whatever it is we're moving through, whatever phase we're moving out of, whatever new chapter we're moving into. It invites in that pause for us to honor that time, those emotions, what we're calling in, what we're releasing. And it allows us to make space for it, I guess, in
Mm.
its simplest form, just having the pause and making the space so we don't just move forward through life in a robotic way, which I feel like I lived most of my 20s.
Yeah, ceremony is so beautiful, and it's so great to take that time, pause, reflect, connect, all of those things. Our life is so fast-paced these days, and instant gratification is pretty popular theme, known or unknown, and taking a moment to just pause and reflect and connect. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
And even though I haven't branched out into ceremony with others too much, I'm actually sitting in ceremony this Saturday, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a beautiful way to reflect on this year and bring in the new year. But um, there is this like seed of community that has been planted in me while I've been doing my solo practice. And even though I haven't branched out into that, it's neat to feel that seed growing in me and know that I'm going to create a community around ceremony. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, and I don't know who's going to be a part of it, but I know that that is happening already.
Mm,
So
and
that'll
so
be
it
fun.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. That seed and that inner knowing. Yes.
Yeah. It feels good just to even say that, to acknowledge that. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I love that. The learning I want to share kind of bounces off of that. So I'd love to share it. Following the divine guidance and following through. I was divinely guided to start a women's circle, a spiritual women's circle in my area, so in person. And I was a little nervous, like, what? Who's going to show up? Who's going to come? And my spiritual mentors just told me to do it. Just put the invitation out there. And so many people responded. They were interested in this offering, this circle. And I was just blown away. We've started and it's grown to be a little more intimate. So not grown, but it's less than the original people that were interested, and that's okay. Like people need to like learn and feel into the energies before they fully commit, and I completely honor that. Um, but listening to that guidance is what brought this to life. And I love that you're already starting that process. You know the seed is there and you know it's going to happen, and you're just letting it unfold. I love that.
Mm. I love that you made that specification of listening to the guidance and following through with it,
Yeah.
because that's really where you build the trust and you start to see the magic unfold, because it is such a practice of listening. And if we don't follow through to the wisdom that we're receiving, then it's likely we won't receive as much wisdom, right? Like if we ignore, it's like anyone, if you ignore anyone talking to you long enough, they're probably going to stop talking to you because you keep ignoring
Yeah.
them. And it's
Yeah.
the same with our guidance and our um and the messages that are trying to come through. So when we follow through, it not only builds the trust for those messages to continue to come, but it builds the trust in ourselves that we can do these things.
Yes.
So that's so beautiful, such an
Mm.
important aspect.
One of my affirmations is I'm open to receive and willing to listen. And I think that's along the same lines, like really important to be open to listen, willing to listen, and following through. Like there's the steps that go along with it. You can't just say, I'm open to receive, or I'm here, please talk to me, please guide me, but
Yeah.
then not do anything with that information, or um so when they communicate with you, it can be very subtle. And a lot of times people are like, they're not even talking to me, they're not even guiding me, but they are communicating with you. It just may be in a way that you're not familiar with. So it's like this whole process of learning to communicate and create that relationship and the
Yeah.
trust. Yeah.
Listening in ways that are beyond just auditory words or visual images. Um, yeah, that's huge for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm,
something else came through when you were saying that and it left me.
it's okay. If it comes back, let me know.
Mm,
What's another learning that you have?
um, so another big uh personal development process I went through this year in working with one of my mentors and coaches was really honing in on my personal values and then creating, or not creating, but I guess honing in again on how I can live in alignment with those values. And it's another one of those things that I think gets thrown around in society a lot, like the term of living in alignment. The term alignment is kind of getting, I don't know, too
Mhm.
trendy for me. Like people, I don't know, it just gets thrown around a lot. Like self-care. Self-care became so trendy that it's just on every commercial now. But um living in alignment and really honing in on my values was not only eye-opening, because honestly there were values in my top 10 that surprised me, and there were also values that I would have expected to be there that weren't. And the only reason I expected them to be there was because society tells me that they should be there, or because values in a trendy sense is like, oh yeah, I value love and I live by love because that's one of my values. But then what does that really mean to you? What does it
Mm,
really mean to be in alignment and living your life by that value of love? What is it? How does that translate in the way you interact with people? How does that translate in how you show up and the feeling in your body? How does it translate into the actions you're incorporating into your day? So really diving into those questions on all of your top 12. I focused on the top 12, and we dive into each one and look at what is blocking me from living in alignment with that value. And I think that was really where some surprising stuff came out of, and where we really got to dive into the body, because it's like, okay, one of my top values is freedom. And I can idolize, I uh ideate, is that right word?
mm, maybe.
I can I can envision a life of freedom and what that looks like in my mind, or what it feels like in my body. But if I don't ask the question, what's in the way of me living in freedom, then I wouldn't have been able to discover the fear that lived in my body that needed to be looked at and processed and integrated and released so that I could start living in alignment with freedom. And so it was a beautiful process of not only embracing the values and learning how to live in alignment, but also uncovering what's underneath in the body that was stopping me unconsciously from living in alignment with those values. So that has been huge, and something that is definitely going to be an ongoing practice. And I'm not there yet by any means. But what's really cool is that foundational work gives me those guideposts to come back to. Like, oh,
Mm,
I'm not feeling the joy I want. And joy is one of my values. So where have I fallen off track? Where am I not living in alignment? And then it gives me a place to start looking.
yeah. I love that you've made your own like framework on the value system and bringing it into the body. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, um I was really impressed. I mean, I didn't come up with that framework. I work with Melissa at Epic Love. If anyone wants to check her out, she's amazing. And this is like her signature program that she works with people one-on-one with, is diving into values and embodiment and living in alignment. So yeah,
Mm, that's
yeah.
so
Follow
beautiful.
her on
Oh,
Instagram if you want some tips.
love it.
Uh, it's interesting too, as we were, talking before the podcast about our themes, and you had talked about how um your lessons had, kind of, not kind of, they did align with your theme. And I didn't realize that as I was writing out and reflecting on teachings, learnings from this year, that they all kind of went along with the theme, even though I didn't necessarily, in those moments or in those light bulb times, relate it to the theme. And I just think it's so cool because even if we're not on a daily basis focusing or coming back to it, we set that intention going into the year, and it had an undercurrent in the year, and we didn't have to come back to it every day. It was just there, and those lessons are going to guide us in that theme that we're calling in, whether we focus on it every single day or not, because we set that intention.
Mm, I love that. Um, I do feel like I did a lot of like breathwork sessions and working with psilocybin plant medicine around that theme and asking for
Yeah,
it to
coming
show
back to
me.
it.
Because I think, the plant medicine gives you a new perspective. And so it's like, what am I missing? What do I need to embody or integrate that I'm not seeing?
Yeah.
Um, but I do love how you put the intention out there and the universe will show you, it'll guide you. And I think that's really
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, let me just correct myself. I don't think it's like a set it and forget it type of thing. You do have to come back to it throughout the year, with different practices. But yeah,
Mm, I love
so
that.
good. Mm, what else is feeling alive?
One of mine was listening to my body slash intuition. For me, they're
Mm,
kind of intertangled. But the body also is your unconscious belief. So it's like maybe it's just my body's talk. Maybe my intuition is talking to me through my body. Maybe that's one of the languages, and that's why it's intertangled for me. Um,
ooh,
but
I feel like we could do a whole podcast on like the intertangling of those things.
But for me, I knew I wanted to get another tattoo. I thought I wanted it on my hand, and I was like, oh, do I really want a giant tattoo on my hand? And then I was like, no, I talked myself out of it. I was like, maybe I'll get it on the shoulder. And then I was like, do I really want that? And then I was like, I should sit down and ask my body what it wants to do. And more, I was like my highest self, and like what is it that I want this human body to walk around with for the rest of its life. And so the same thing with like a pendulum, I asked my body, show me a yes response. And we've done an episode around visceral intelligence. But for me, this was a little different because I wanted like that clear yes and a clear no. And my authority is emotional. And so for you, yours is sacral, you get that gut response, that instant yes or no in your gut. I don't have that. Mine is like this wave. And I'll sometimes think that I'm excited about something and that should be a yes, but it's not the case with my emotional authority. I need to wait until I'm no longer excited and ask again. But I don't have time for that. So I did the clear yes, clear no. And then I began asking myself the questions about the tattoo. And I finally settled on the hand tattoo. And then it was after the hand tattoo that I was like looking at it and I was like, I think it was through the healing process where it was peeling and it was just a hot mess. And I was like, it's really hard not to be seen with a hand tattoo. And I just thought it was hilarious that it tied into my theme. And I didn't have any idea that that was what was actually
Wow.
happening through that process.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so cool too because listening to my body is one of my top lessons also, but in a completely different way. So I just think that's so neat because it all ties together. And for me, it's been this lesson of knowing that if I take the time to listen to my body and allow my body the time to process whatever it is I'm feeling, then I can move through it and integrate it faster than if I just ignore my body and focus on whatever it is I think I should be doing, or if I don't allow myself to have the time because I think I don't have the time. Um, and looking back at this year and everything that I processed and released emotionally, had I not taken that time and allowed myself to fall apart, essentially, um, it would have taken who knows how long. And it would have just continued to be this unmet part of me and this stuck energy that continued to play a role in my life, in the undercurrent of my life. But because I'm learning that lesson of taking the time to be with it all. And I actually heard, speaking of tattoos, Sam Skelly, one of her tattoos on her arm is love what is,
Mm.
love what is. And as I've been learning to listen to my body more, that's what I'm trying to embrace. Just love what is, love what is, love what is, which is so much easier said than done because we all know when we get those feelings, sometimes we get feelings in the body and we're like, no, don't want to feel that. Don't want to feel that. I'm just gonna turn on Netflix, or I'm just gonna do this or distract myself. Like how many times I was actually, this is gonna be a tangent, but I'm gonna bring us back. I was talking to a girlfriend recently. She's going through a breakup and she's telling me like I'm just trying to keep busy. I'm just trying to keep busy, trying to work. I'm trying to, rearrange my house. I'm trying to do this and that. I'm just trying to keep busy. It's like, I get it. I totally get it. But what if you didn't? What if you just sat with it so you could get through it so you didn't have to keep yourself busy? Because there's only so long of keeping yourself busy before your body's like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I need a break. So that's been my big lesson, is not pushing through, not keeping busy when emotions arise that need to be dealt with, and just being with it and taking the pause and taking the time and allowing myself to fall apart and know that I'm going to be able to put myself back together.
Mm. I love that. I'd love to add or reflect. that keeping busy and I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. You're just like putting it in a backpack and carrying it around with you. You're making it last longer. I mean, and sure, there is times where it's maybe not appropriate to sit face to face with the emotion. Maybe you have to work your 9 to 5 job and it's just not a good time. And so setting those feelings aside, maybe putting them in a box and placing them on the shelf. That was something I learned from the breathwork facilitator program because this work does bring up a lot of stuff and it just kind of flows out sometimes. And maybe we were deeper in it because we were in the facilitator program. I'm not sure, but coming back to that box when you
Yeah.
do have the time, or maybe there's so much in the box, can you just take a little out and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll sit with this. um but I
That's
love that
beautiful
you,
reflection.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be all of it all at once.
Yeah, that titration. Can I take some of it? Can I feel some of it and let some of it go?
Yeah. And you can take that little piece out and you can give yourself the 5 minutes, the 10 minutes, whatever you have, and then you can put it back. It
Mm,
might not, you might not have the time and space or resources to fully integrate it in that one time, but just allowing yourself that titration, that peek behind the curtain, and then okay, that was good for today, and I'm going to put it back on the shelf,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
going to come back to it again tomorrow or next week or whatever, but just coming back to it. Yeah.
Mm. I love that you had all these tools from pause, the coaching, the breath work, and the ceremony program, all of these tools in your toolbox for this last year for you and helping you move through something that could have really tore you down and buried you in a hole. You were able to be with it all and integrate it and release it and move through it in such a beautiful, powerful way.
Thanks for,
You're welcome.
and I want to encourage people, if you're hearing that and you're like, well, what if we don't have tools? What if we haven't gone through these programs and feel equipped? Um, if you are ready, the teacher will come. Maybe Alyssa and I are your teachers. So check out our other podcast episodes. But but just being open, open to start the journey, open to start peeking behind the curtain, and the tools will come if you start looking and you're ready to receive. Oh, that was another quick note on your point earlier about talking about being ready to receive. And something, this is like a bonus learning, I guess, that I've realized over the year as I've been working on my ability to receive, is that we can't just be willing to receive the good stuff, and we can't just be willing to receive the 3D stuff, like I think I might have mentioned this before, but I had this realization at one point this year. I'm like, how can I receive my biggest dream of abundance and retreat center and a community and like all these things I envision in my dream if I want to crawl under a hole for someone complimenting my hair? Like, if I can't receive such little bits of energy that people are sending me, like that's my titration. That's
Mm,
what is expanding my capacity, not me. I mean, yes, like the affirmations are going to expand capacity as well. But if I don't work on those little points of receiving, or even receiving um, something perceived as like a critique or something, being able to receive those things helps you receive bigger things. That's tangible.
wow.
But
I love that. And so much could be said about that. We could do a whole topic, but receiving and just holding it instead of like trying to be like, give it right back
yes,
and I mean,
I'm glad you brought
deflect
that up.
that
Mhm.
compliment.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I'm such a deflector. I'm such a deflector. Like, Oh, I like your hair. Oh my gosh, you too. And then I will compliment them more and I'll redirect it to them. Like, let's talk about you. How about your hair?
That's so funny.
That's such a surface level example, but I think people know what we mean.
Yeah. So wrapping up the last big lesson, is it your turn or my turn?
You go.
Okay. Um, mine, and this could be every year, but just continuing to trust and surrender. Um, so I said it wrong. Surrender and trust the flow. Like I said at the beginning, this year did not go as planned. We were supposed to be building a house in what we thought was going to be like an estate, like where we would live for a long time. But it just wasn't working out. Thing after thing, project, person, nothing was working. And so we finally just surrendered. We let go and we're like, show us what we are supposed to be doing. And then there was the job offer, and the houses all fell into place. And before you knew it, we had moved. And um, something told me that we moved for me, even though it was my husband's job offer. And I think that's just like that trusting the flow and allowing what it is to come. And so now I have the spiritual women's circle that I never felt safe to start in my old town. And being in like a fresh place allows me to be seen in a new way. And I just love it.
That gave me chills.
Ooh.
Ah, that's so good.
Yeah.
So good. Such a great example of how just everything flows in unexpected ways. Just being open
Yeah.
to that. Like, how cool is it that you weren't so attached to that old vision that you were like, okay, I'm going to release that. And
Mhm.
then so much better came along. That's so cool.
Yeah. I love it. And it was hard. I mean, we held on tight for a long time. And then finally we were like, okay, having that trust, that faith, that really helped.
Yeah. Mm, so good. Let's see. The last one that I had written down, this one actually came from reading um The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And it's adopting this infinite mindset. And it really challenged me to think bigger in terms of the vision that I'm casting for my mission and the mission of my business, and realizing that it's okay to have a mission that I may never accomplish, that isn't even possible to be accomplished in this lifetime. And those are the missions and the visions that compel people to want to be a part of something bigger than them. And it was this light bulb moment of like, oh, like those are the things that I want to be a part of, or the things that are bigger than me, not the thing that can be accomplished in the next year. And it really gave me permission to set my sights bigger than what I could ever accomplish. Because before it was like, I wanted to give myself something realistic. Like it was just my left brain doing the planning instead of my soul casting the vision. And so it's like, how can I use my logical brain in that planning process, but only after the big vision has been set, and only after I'm aligned with and giving myself permission to be a part of something that's bigger than me that I'm never going to be able to accomplish. And
Wow.
it's like, it's been such a huge shift for me that I don't feel like I've fully clicked into place with yet. Like conceptually, I've gained this learning, and I'm still waiting for that big vision to come through. Like it's there, but I think there's still a next level big vision that is brewing and forming. And yeah, I'm hoping it comes in 2024. So stay
Mm,
tuned.
I love that. Oh, I love that, just creating that vision that is so big, so infinite, so juicy, that it's like, how could you not want to continue to live for that every day for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Like, how can it feel so good that we want to just keep showing up every single day, even if we know we're never going to get there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there isn't an endpoint. Setting a vision with no endpoint, that's such a different concept for me.
Mm, I love that.
So good.
This was such a fun recap of our year. And I hope that our audience has some key takeaways so that they enjoyed it. Share in the comments what your biggest lesson is for the year. We'd love to read it. And catch us next week as we feel into 2024's themes and what we're looking to embody and step into next year.
Mm. Have an amazing rest of this year and enjoy this transition into the next chapter.
Beautiful. Bye.